US involvement in the Vietnam War began in 1955 with military assistance, but the full commitment of combat troops only began in 1965 and lasted through to the US withdrawal in 1973. The war resulted in the deaths of over 58,000 American service personnel and over 1 million Vietnamese. It is well known that America's strongest ally, Great Britain, managed to stay out of the war, officially at least, but some other nations apart from South Vietnam did contribute forces to the fighting, most notably Australia and South Korea. But incredibly, the US also turned for help to a fascist regime, a regime whose leader had strong historical links to Adolf Hitler, but was now seen as an acceptable US friend. This country's military had a long tradition of opposing communism, most notably on the Eastern Front in World War II. Now, in 1965, 2 decades after the end of the war, US President Lyndon Johnson secretly asked for its help. That country was Spain, under its leader General Francisco Franco, who had come to power with Hitler and Mussolini's help in 1939. President Johnson needed troops to help support the growing US effort in Vietnam, and the war was already becoming unpopular both at home and around the globe. Franco had remained in power because he had kept Spain out of World War II, remaining neutral despite German pressure to join the Axis. Franco was determined in 1965 that any Spanish military assistance to the US would also have to be kept secret so as not to imperil Spain's neutrality, and he turned for advice to General Agustin Muñoz Grandes. Incredibly, Muñoz Grandes had actually commanded the 45,000-strong Spanish Blue Division on the Eastern Front during World War II, when, in return for German military assistance with winning the Spanish Civil War for Franco, the dictator sent an expeditionary force of volunteer Spanish troops, uniformed and armed by the Germans, to help invade Stalin's Soviet Union. Muñoz Grandes was actually a holder of Nazi Germany's highest award for gallantry and leadership, the Knight's Cross, and had later received the Oak Leaves to the Knight's Cross, indicating a second award from the hands of Adolf Hitler himself. By 1965, Muñoz Grandes was Deputy Prime Minister of Spain. He counseled Franco to do what President Johnson wanted and commit a small token force to the war in Vietnam. It would, after all, help build US-Spanish relations in the Cold War. But it was decided that only a Spanish Army medical unit would be sent, and only in secret. That unit was no Spanish Blue Division. Instead of 45,000 troops, Franco committed just 30 service personnel from the Army Medical Corps, including 4 Army doctors. The unit was based at Trong Thong Dinh Hospital in Go Gong, a small town 45 kilometers from Saigon and relatively close to the Ho Chi Minh Trail, and operated between 1966 and 1971. A total of 100 Spanish Army personnel rotating through the hospital. US Army helicopters constantly came and went, and the sounds of war were not far away. The hospital was an old and dilapidated French colonial building and had only 150 beds, but at peak use was often crammed with up to 400 US and South Vietnamese military wounded and many civilians, and they were very short of medical supplies. When working, the Spaniards wore US military fatigues with Spanish badges, and off-duty wore Spanish uniforms. The Viet Cong never attacked the Spanish, and they were held in high regard by locals, and many were decorated by the South Vietnamese government for their humanitarian service. The local town even named a bridge after the unit, which left Vietnam in 1971. This story only emerged in Spain in 2012, after being top secret for decades. General Franco died in 1975, and thereafter Spain became a democratic constitutional monarchy. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and share, and also visit my audiobook channel, War Stories with Mark Felton. You can also help to support both of my channels at PayPal and Patreon. Details in the description box below.